Beloved of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, beloved of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, this is a very urgent message, a very urgent message called How to Do a Tithe and Offering in God's Church. How to do a tithe and offering in God's Church. This is taken from Counsel on Stewardship by Sister Ellen G. White, chapter called Jacob's Fidelity, chapter called The Response of an Aroused Conscience, a section called Jacob's Fidelity, page 98. Jacob made his vow, Genesis 28:20-22, while refreshed by his dews of grace and invigorated by the presence and assurance of God. After the divine glory had passed away, he had temptations, like men in our time, but he was faithful to his vow and would not harbor thoughts as to the possibility of being released from the pledge which he had made. He might have reasoned, much as men do now, that his revelation was only a dream, that he was unduly excited when he made his vow, and that therefore it need not to be kept, but he did not. Long years intervened before Jacob dared to return to his own country, but when he did, he faithfully discharged his debt to his master. He had become a wealthy man, and a very large amount of property passed from his possessions to the treasure of the Lord. Many in our day fail where Jacob made a success. Those to whom God has given the greatest amount have the strongest inclination to retain what they have, because they must give a man proportionate to their property. Jacob gave the tenth of all that he had, and then reckoned the use of the tenth, and gave the Lord interest during the time he was in a heathen land. He could not pay his vow. This was a large amount, but he did not hesitate. That which he had vowed to God, he did not regard as his, but as the Lord's. According to the amount bestowed will be the amount required. The larger the capital entrusted, the more valuable is the gift which God requires to be required to him. If a Christian has $10,000 or $20,000, God's claims are imperative upon him not only to give his portion according to the tithing system, but to present his sin offerings and thank offerings to God. Now, beloved in the Adventist Church, tithing is a very important system in the Adventist Church. God will not bless us. God will not bless us if we do not return at least 20 to 25% of our money to God each Sabbath, or each day we make the money out there, beloved in the Adventist Church. You know, patriarchs and prophets tells us that the Hebrews, in a chapter called Tithes and Offerings, gave 1/4 of all their income to God back in tributary offerings. That's 25% of their income back in. So if you had $100, you give $25, $10 in tithe, and $15 in offering. That's what you're supposed to do, beloved in the Adventist Church, or $20 if you're a student like me. $20, 25% if you have a regular job and you're not in school, beloved in the Adventist Church, not poor. Beloved in the Adventist Church, that is required of us in these last days. We're required to support God's church, to support the ministry, support the ordained ministry, and support the local church and how we support God's church in these last days. Supporting the ministry of Sabbath School Mission, Sabbath School Expense, self-supporting ministries like Amazing Facts, Quiet Hour, Voice of Prophecy, not Breath of Life, because Breath of Life is teaching, paying First Day Singers to minister amongst them in these last days, beloved. First Day Singers like Lady Tremaine Watkins, Fred Hammond, and First Day Singers and First Day Singers like Kurt Franklin, First Day ministers like these ministers who come to Pelk every single Evangelism Council in the month of December. Now look what the Bible said. My E.G. White Study Bible says, not until Christ or God ceases to bless us with his blessings are we to stop and turn tithe and offering to God in church. What shall I render for all the blessings he's given us? What shall I render, beloved? I should render to him my tributary offerings of praise, my missionary service, my tithe and offering, my overcoming sin, my health reform. What shall I render, beloved? God has everything and everything belongs to him. We need to support God's church, not just from our increase, but also from our net, also from the money that we are getting from others. We need to support the church that way as well. That is what God has told us to do. Not just on extra money. Do not anybody fleece you in the church by telling you not to support the church from all the money you get. We need to support 20%, 25% of all the money we get, not just on the increase, but also on the money that we are getting that is not in our increase, beloved. That is what we're called to do. Even if somebody tries to offer us money and tell us to do something different, don't listen to that person, because God's not going to save us in his kingdom, and we might drop that early because we listen to that man, not listen to God. Listen to God. Do what he's told us to do, and we get into the God's kingdom. We have a happy life, beloved. Maranatha. God bless.